First of all, awareness is very important. People need to be aware that planning for our old age, planning for our future, planning for transitions is not to be taken for granted. Just like how children going to primary school, there's a transition, stressful. Primary school to secondary school, there's another transition, which is also stressful. And then going to NS or finding your first job or getting married, having children, these transitional periods themselves, because of the change, actually it can be stressful if you do not manage it well. So, as we grow older, the physical decline is going to be definite. So all women would know, when you experience menopause, there are real physiological changes, and then impacts on our psychological mood and so on. And then same for men, but men experience andropause a bit more differently. And yet there is also other factors like the social norms of retirement. Retirement, of course, if in an agricultural society, we don't really think of retirement, but in an urban, industrialized, retirement is quite normal. And so people have to think about what is life after, decades of formal working. So we need to be aware that these transitions themselves need to be managed. So after you're aware, then you need to manage, right? So how do you manage these things? So I feel there are 5 important pillars that we need to consider. The first one, of course, it is health. This is roughly based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but also based on the active aging framework by WHO and then later developed by LC Brazil. So health, you need to plan. And then security, particularly income security, you need to sort of plan. And then participation in relationships is also a very important one. A lot of people, after they retire, they come home and then they do not know how the wife doesn't know how to deal with the husband doesn't know how to deal with the wife, and then also the children. But it's not just about families, but also friendship and so on. So relationship and participation in either the workforce or in the society, in the political process. So that is also a big thing. And the 4th pillar is actually lifelong learning, because if a person does not continue to keep track of what's going on, the new technology, the new culture, new way of doing things, they can be really at the risk of marginalizing themselves. And knowledge and skills are power, right? Knowledge is power. If you have these, you're more likely to be independent and mitigate stressors in life. So lifelong learning is the 4th. The 5th I regard as something I call the inner resilience. Inner resilience is of 2 parts. One of them is this positive thinking. Sometimes it's also known as the sense of coherence, that everything have causes and conditions that come to be like that, and it is comprehensible. Even if at the moment I don't fully comprehend, I believe they're comprehensible. So this is the first part of sense of coherence. Second one is the belief that I am able to manage. That means I have enough resources that I can deal with it. So it's a kind of confidence that a person feels that they can manage. And the third part of it is the sense of meaningfulness, like overcoming this challenge is actually meaningful. So this is where spirituality comes in, if I'm really suffering, what's stopping me from ending it all? No, because there's something I believe that is meaningful for me to overcome. So this is the sense of coherence, the first part of the resilience. The other part is how do you deal with stress? This is where leisure and plays and things come in. How do we deal with stress generally? Basically, we just need to change the subject of the mind. So we can go to the parks to walk, we can go running, we can actually do some games and so on. But of course, there are some people who maladapt, they don't adapt so well. They drink, they smoke, they engage in gambling and addictive behavior. So those are maladaptive behavior in stress management. So stress management, if you can manage this well with leisure activities, or better still, you have a way to calm down without external infrastructure, environment and so on, such as the practice of mindfulness and meditation, then together with your worldview, this culminates in a person who is resilient, And this is really important because as we develop, as we grow older and older, our health, no matter how much we want to promote, prevent, it will happen, You will get stroke, even if it's not at 70 years old, you get it at 80 years old, 85 or 90, or heart disease or kidney failure and so on. So these are all something that is part and parcel of the biology. And then income security, of course, you can plan with your insurance, with your passive income, and manage your expenses with budget and don't overspend and so on. But sometimes you never know how much does it cost in long-term care. We cannot predict how long we will stay disabled. I think it is from MOH that mentioned about 3 in 10 will be disabled for 10 years. So this is costly. And then in terms of family and relations, of course you need to cultivate and participate in having a harmonious relationships throughout your life. That's of course really important. But sometimes you can't quite guarantee that. And then lifelong learning is always good, but if you develop dementia or develop some kind of disability that you cannot access the latest, what you have left is actually this inner resilience, which is your habit of. So these are the 5 things that we need to think about even as we age. And I must say that a working person, you have all the 5 met. If you do not retire, you continue to have some kind of occupation, you'll find that it will keep you active, and then you have relative health, you'll be connected with the society, and you have some kind of income, and then you always learn. So these pillars are satisfied if you have some kind of a occupation, But say for some reasons your health declines so much, it's no longer possible for you to continue working. It will still be important to occupy your mind and your time with some hobbies, with some work and so on. It's really important. That's why in managing people with dementia, one of the things we need to do is they should be engaged with activities. Even without dementia, people with mental health issue, people who just disabled, sitting at home watching TV is really too boring. So you need to have something to occupy. Then, but ultimately, touch wood, that if we should become really, really disabled, where we can no longer, manage all the other pillars, I hope we still have the inner resilience to be at peace with staying quiet, without feeling lonely. You can be alone without feeling lonely, and you can still find inner growth here. This reminds me of gerontologist philosophy. I'm not sure whether it's a philosophy or a gerontology actually. It's called gerotranscendence. It's the idea that aging is actually a developmental stage of a human existence, that means it's a different kind of development. It's inner journey, and the person starts to feel more connected with others, less selfish, less extrovert, more introvert, less thinking of gains, but more thinking of letting go. So this is a different phase of a development, and there are indications and the evidence for it, because we have seen people who are disabled with dementia, they can be very peaceful, very calm. Even though, to us, obviously with disability and with sickness and so on, how can you be peaceful and happy? But there are people like that. So the phenomenon of gerotranscendence, in a way, there is some substantiation, some evidence to support that. So in a way, in summary, we need to raise awareness about the needs of seniors and the challenges that they need to deal with. Then after the awareness, we need to know how to prepare for this, right? So these are the 5 pillars of aging well that I think we need to look into. And then the other things like occupation, career, can even support. Those are supportive of these 5 pillars. Yeah. So first of all, occupation need not be paid work, right? Occupation is really occupying the mind. It could be a game, it could be conversation, it could be reading a book. So that's occupation. But just now I talk about something that satisfies all the five pillars at the same time. I mean employment and work, So, but and what is this kind of work? It's related to creating values that other people value, and because of that, there's an exchange. When there's an exchange, when you meet people's unmet needs, or you have something to give that people need, it actually creates the human and human interaction. In order to create values and meet people's needs, you need to learn, update your skills and lifelong learning. And when you provide values and so on, people will give you in exchange value. Usually it's in money, right? Fungibility. And then when you actually in order to create value that people like, you need health. The other thing about health is very interesting, is how do you understand health? Health, well, there are many ways to understand it. WHO has got its definition. Previously, they call it complete. It's not just merely the absence of disease, but complete well-being of biopsycho and social domains. But as you go older and older, it is impossible to have complete well-being of biopsycho and social. So in the latest definition on healthy aging, they did not call it definition of health, but they call it definition of healthy aging. They define healthy aging as functional ability. That means you can have diabetes, you can have schizophrenia, you can have depression or dementia, but you're able to do things that is meaningful. Then, in this regard, you have the functional ability, so you have relative healthy aging. So if you think of health as functionality, then instead of focus on the diseases, we focus on whether we can do things that's meaningful. So that's when people will start to think, oh, what if I'm disabled? No, I'm blind, I'm lost my hearing and all that. So that's when we need to talk about functional ability is both intrinsic factors as well as environmental factors. So how do we build ramps, create design so that it is accessible? How do we create a social culture that is non-discriminating, that promotes participation by people with impairment and disability? So in a way, if you see health as functionality, people who have got diseases or lost some kind of intrinsic capacity need not feel that all is lost. We can intervene on using rehabilitation, on environmental designs, and also on social psychology. So this one we can promote health. Then and then in terms of the other financial and so on, so this one, of course, individually we need to plan, but ultimately the family and the society also need to support. So of course there are many factors to all this. I mean, we cannot take for granted that there is peace in Singapore. There is certain degree of social development, economic development, health and social services are easily available, and there's no disaster, there's low crime, and then the infrastructure and housing are all quite well designed. So all these things are there, and then it make health, wealth, relationships, and lifelong learning more accessible. Lifelong learning particularly, we need to give credit to Council for Third Age and the National Silver Academy, where people are, above the age of 55 are funded or subsidized when they attend classes, whether or not it's for employment purposes. So I think the larger environment is really supportive. Then it's really the individuals. Are they aware of it? Are they taking action to prevent the losses and also rehabilitate where there are deficits? All these 5 pillars. To move from change behavior, they need to perceive that this change of behavior is beneficial. They need to perceive that they can change. They also need to perceive that the change behavior is the norm. And then it makes it easier for them to make a determination to change, and then they'll change. So in order to do this, they need to be educated on the benefits of the change behavior. Second is that they need to be encouraged and reinforced that they are not powerless, they are not, their determination will come true. So they need to overcome tiny challenges in order to build self-confidence. Then perceived norms, that depends on which crowd do they mix with. So who do they mix with? If you want to quit cigarette and all your friends are smoking, or that or everywhere where everybody is drinking, then for you to quit smoking or drinking, it may not be easy because you don't perceive this as a norm. So after these are satisfied, you want to make a determination, make a purpose. You need to have some kind of an incentive, you know. So sometimes it's just ritual, you know, like maybe your birthday coming, right? From this day onward, you quit or anything, yeah. Or maybe it is continuous encouragement by families and friends, and then they will slowly change. So, but in order to really change, you still need that ability to manage your emotions, and that's where mindfulness comes in. So when it comes to change of behavior, mindfulness is one. All the others are also necessary. Also, I must say, the ability to change also depends on how convenient, accessible. Like, I want to exercise, but there are no exercise facilities around. I want to reduce my intake of calories, but all the food I see are also high sugar and so on. So there are also some kind of environmental designs are needed. So I would say that mental health cannot be managed alone. The model that I feel is more effective, I'm not sure whether is it feasible throughout in its entirety, but definitely it is needed, especially for the frail, is the biopsychosocial spiritual model. If there is a psychological issue, I still need to manage the biological issue. I need to manage the social and then the spiritual issue. If there is a biological issue, I also need to manage the psychological issue and the social and so on. It's similar to pain management. Usually pain, depression and sleep, you know, they're all interlinked. If you don't manage the pain, the sleep cannot be managed and the depression is there. If you don't manage the depression, the sleep is poor and then the pain is always there. So you need to manage the all these together. So same with social, because humans are social animals. So if you give a person antidepressant, but the social environment is very toxic or very lonely and so on, you have not really managed the depression. So we need to manage it in a holistic way. And so especially mental health, we need a team approach, which is the hardest, you know, of it all. So mental health is not just the mental diseases like your depression, anxiety, dementia, and so on. Mental health is all the subtle negative emotions that gradually can add up into stress. And acute stress is not a big deal. All of us, you know, sometimes we need acute stress to be energized, but chronic stress is harmful, you know. So we need to so it's not just mental health diseases, but mental well-being as a whole, managing chronic stress. Chronic stress can manifest in many forms: grief and loss, loneliness, boredom, helplessness, existential, you know, identity crisis. All these things should be managed, and the leadership of such management may not be the doctor, because these are very human experience. Actually, it should be part of our knowledge. If every human should have this kind of basic knowledge, just like financial literacy is basic, healthcare is basic, resilience should be basic, how to learn things is basic, and how to make friends are basic. So all of us need to have this kind of basic stress management, worldview kind of management. So if we think of it broadly like this, I think it's more sustainable, because you don't have to use expensive resources to manage mental health.